Dr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Nostalgia. Did you remember that? Or did you recall a more joyous version of recalled events? Nostalgia is a thing that we all have to some extent or another. But why do we even have nostalgia? I mean, it's really just your brain trying to remember the better memories than the bad ones, coupled with your naivety when you were younger, that cultivates in a perfect storm of reminiscing about the good old times than what happened really. For me, it was a time marked by America's wake-up call, and the dying of an age, a way of thinking, and a generation. In my mind, I have strong memories of running around in the yard, making adventures at my grand's house, and the wonder of what things could be found. And I'm sure that many of you had similar experiences, barring those you with more traumatic or abnormal childhoods. But I'm not here to just go over the origins and reasons of nostalgia's existence. This is a gaming channel, for the most part, that discusses games and what they are. If you do want to know more about the nostalgic part of your brain, I'd recommend Vsauce's video on it. It may be old, but it's still pretty good. Now, on with the show. The idea of nostalgia has been around for a while. Not really, a while now. But only till recently have games become old enough for the industry to start profiteering off what you used to play. This is especially true for those who are just settling down and having wife and kids of their own. This also means by rules of induction that some of those people are going into the gaming industry and making games themselves, reminiscing on the old days of the SNES and old DOS games. You can even see the shift in other industries like Hollywood, with Thor Ragnarok and their music selection. With all this in mind, it is no wonder that we are seeing a new dawn and already in the beginnings of a new era of games. Will this be an era of pandering to your childhood? Where the pandering will only get stronger and the industry as a whole will get less and less experimental, only relying on what's sold previously? Oh, who am I kidding? That's already happened. Jokes aside, there is some good to come out of all of this. Experience. For the past 20 years, we have seen a shift in who makes the games, from former toy manufacturers, Microsoft employees, and arcade designers. For now we have those people who grew up with video games now directing them, and with that they have avoided, for the most part, the pitfalls of the previous follies of others. Yes, those people that I was making out to be the bad guy 2 minutes ago, they are in the unique position, and without a shadow of a doubt, the reign holders of this new era. And what's scary is that they can easily wallow in mediocrity than to make greatness. Needless to say, the next few decades are going to be interesting, to say the least. Not because of the new technological leaps that we're going to make, but for the first time in so many years, there's a new industry of media poised to completely change what we think of media as a whole. While I'm inclined to leave the video here, there's still a substantial amount to what is happening in recent events to talk about. Mainly how our current industry leaders and manufacturers are using nostalgia and what is done right and wrong when they're using it. Nintendo's first on this list for the main reason that they are the perfect example of nostalgia done right. With their products and IPs mainly being the two big ones that are synonymous with Nintendo's name. Both Zelda and Mario have been in the company's bloodline from the start of their video games production, with the enormous hits that carried their wall-guarding games on exclusive hardware from the beginning. But why does Nintendo get away with making essentially the same game core loop and not get railed like others have tried? The answer is one of evolution of a formula and careful consideration of the market. You see, when Nintendo makes a sequel to an IP, it's never rushed. In fact, they hold off making sequels until there's just enough time for the consumer base to say that Nintendo is dormant. Then bam, there's another one. Their once antiquated IPs are back in the center of attention. This coupled with the fact that they have unconventional practices that are not common to the rest of the current industry standards. The big ones being their rigorous bug testing and willingness to wait to make sequels, and even then only making sequels when they have reinvented the wheel. And what I mean by this is that they make the same game core loop, but they involve it in new ways with pre-existing mechanics getting a once-over that were staples of the games prior. The very last reason I'd like to bring up is that this is a company that was here from the beginning and has lasted long enough and had loyal customers all the way up till present day. Nintendo has a unique advantage that virtually no other game company has, being there from the start. Yep, EA's here again. Why do I keep talking about a company that unilaterally sucks balls? I guess it's just too easy to make an example out of a company, because it's worse than a trash can full of dead rats. You see, EA is a profit for profit. They use their seniority in the industry and ride on previous successes. If Nintendo told EA what to do right, EA would be the one to completely ignore their advice and make the same mistake over and over. I guess that kind of makes them the jock from the Flubber movie, wouldn't it? And while you may think I'm exaggerating, I really wish that I was exaggerating. But every single time I see a new game that EA has made, the question is, what does it have? What are its features? No, the question is, what bullshit has EA come up with to scam us today? This is why EA is here for the most part. Electronic Arts has the tendency to make one or two good things every decade or so, and then ride them into the ground. The first games that EA made were actually good. They had a story and great mechanics to explore, but now these days it's just retreads of failure. Not even thinly mailed remakes of previous greatness, no, just flawed inbreds of stagnation one gets from doing the same thing over and over and over again. I don't even have jokes for this company anymore. Not even rage for the piece of reproductive organ failure that they shit out every year. Just disappointment. Not only for the company that used to make good, even great things. Now all they do is try to profiteer on our nostalgia with a sprinkle on top of combination of Stockholm Syndrome and ignorance. While I do pick on EA, they are not the only transgressors that want to cash in on nostalgia and not try at all or change anything. There are other developers out there that have aged their franchises like bananas in a hot car for a month. For closing statements on how companies use nostalgia, I'll say this. While I have used two extremes for my examples of how companies do nostalgia right and wrong, I need to make it clear that all companies that have games that are sufficiently old can try to profit on their game's nostalgia, and many companies have tried, to varying degrees. And while what I went over on how to do nostalgia right can be applied to sequels as a whole, the rule of thumb being that the longer you wait, the more customers will think it needs to be evolved to be justified to have a sequel in the first place.
Next message.
When it comes to the consumer, and by extension the children that the parents are buying things for them, we often write off games that we've played in our childhood as some of the best games we ever played. I myself have fond memories of sitting in front of the TV and playing video games. And while I still reminisce on those good times, I have to be realistic and pop my own bubble. And yours by extension. Even though those games were perfect to us, you have to admit, they have not all aged very well. This goes for everything. Zelda Ocarina of Time, that I have recently played and beat, was once called one of the best games of all time. Now it's merely a product of its time, and it's far from flawless. People often use the term or phrase to say that that was the shit, which basically means it has been surpassed and thus we have proven ourselves wrong by thinking that it was great as it was. But that's not on the game's part. As I said before, games are a product of their time, and we are the product of time. Whether we care to admit it or not, nostalgia will always make our past better or worse than it was in our minds. Games that we have believed to be the pinnacle have been placed there both because of hindsight and romanticization of the past. And that's okay. Just remember not to hype an old game beyond what it actually is. Cheers.
Please say my name. Please say my name.
He's going to. It's
Curse
the
you,
third one.
Zelda! Curse you, sages!
Are you ready? Are you ready
Please.
for it?
Do it! Do it! Curse you, paste! Perfect.